Hey, Tim Frisch with A Frisch Perspective here. In this video, I'm going to be looking at how John MacArthur, pastor of Grace Community Church, could win in his court case against the California government. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for joining me in this situation, this journey where we've been following Pastor John MacArthur and his case with the California government, which has been putting restrictions on churches and not allowing them to meet indoors in certain parts of the state of California. Pastor MacArthur at Grace Community Church in LA County has continued to keep their doors open, and they actually have been meeting indoors recently with a full congregation of Christians meeting for worship on Sundays in spite of the California restrictions. Before we actually get into the details here and I talk about how he could win this case, if you're new to my channel and you enjoy Christian nerdy content like this, then please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification so that you will know when I upload a new video. So let me say first off that I think it's a really good sign for John MacArthur and Grace Community Church that in their court appearances they've already had a couple of wins. Now, these aren't complete victories in their situation. The full hearing, from what I know, is supposed to take place on September 4th. But they have had some wins in the courts, allowing them to continue to meet indoors and not face any consequences at the moment. And this shows a couple of things. Number one, it shows the proficiency of MacArthur's legal team, the fact that they have been able to present his case so well, that he has had some wins here. And another good thing here is that it shows that the courts have some sympathy in protecting the rights of churches in this situation. And I think that's been demonstrated. Now, not necessarily directly, because an ultimate decision hasn't been made, but still in these different situations where they have gone into court, the courts in some of these situations have actually sided with Pastor MacArthur and Grace Community Church. And these can be looked at as really positive things going into the hearing that's coming up. So basically the case that MacArthur and his legal team are making is that California is treating Grace Community Church as a non-essential entity, and they don't have the right to do that. So I'll show you from MacArthur's lawsuit here what it says. Further, the state of California must answer where it claims to derive such discriminatory authority from the specific limited powers we the people, necessarily including Christians, have granted for our own protection to government. California has no such power to determine whether churches are essential, as the federal and state constitutions have already done so. Grace Community Church provides a spiritual service to the Los Angeles community that its congregation and its members rightly believe is essential, and the California State Constitution specifically protects their fundamental rights in this context. Further along in this lawsuit, it says defendants, that's the state of California, intentionally and arbitrarily categorize entities, individuals, and conduct as either essential or non-essential. Those entities and persons classified as essential or as participating in essential services are permitted to go about their business and activities. Those classified as non-essential or as engaging in non-essential activities are required to stay home unless it becomes necessary for them to leave for one of the enumerated essential activities. So you can see firsthand here how they are stating their case. And again, what they're saying is the government of California has no right to call a church a non-essential entity and treat them differently than other institutions where if they're considered essential, you can go about your business and do what you normally would do, but if you're considered non-essential, you're not allowed to operate as you normally would. So John MacArthur has made this point that the government is overstepping its bounds. Jenna Ellis, the legal counsel for MacArthur, has also made this point many times, and even on Twitter, she commonly says, "Church is essential." So that is a key point here, and I want to talk a little bit about how this is a strong case. What can we look to support what they're saying here, that the church is essential? And there are three things that support this position that church is essential. The first one, this is really important, is that the Constitution says that church is essential. Now that's true in the state of California, but it's also true on a national level. The First Amendment of the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So in that amendment, you're seeing there that religion is considered an essential activity. It's something that should be able to be practiced freely. So in that sense, it is essential. Now, the fact that the California and the federal Constitution implicate that church is essential is really important here, because how do courts decide a case? Well, part of it is they're going to decide the case based on the Constitution. That's true at the state level for the state Constitution, and if a case like this ever went before the Supreme Court could look at the federal Constitution and determine how this case should be decided. And if the Constitution, whether it's on a state level or on the federal level, says that church is essential, then I think the court would have to decide in the church's interests because of constitutional reasons. Aside from the constitutional foundations for this, another thing bolstering their case is what the president said. And this is actually in their lawsuit here. They point out on May 22nd, 2020, President Donald Trump held a press briefing. During that press briefing, President Trump stated, "Today I am identifying houses of worship, churches, synagogues, and mosques as essential places that provide essential services." So you have a constitutional basis, but you also have the President of the United States, which is the executive branch, saying that churches are essential. So that's two things in favor of what John MacArthur and Jenna Ellis are saying here. So I think that is a really strong case in and of itself. But then when you look at the specific situation in California, another really important point here is that church is definitely as essential as other entities declared essential by the California government. Again, this is pointed out in the lawsuit. Plaintiff Grace Community Church is being discriminated against because it is not permitted to have people inside of its building. Preferential treatment is being given to corporations which defendants arbitrarily categorize as essential, such as Costco, Walmart, Target, Albertsons, Stater Bros, Trader Joe's, Sprouts, Macy's, Nike, Gap, Gucci, and numerous other retail stores. All of these stores are allowed to have people indoor at either their retail stores, warehouses, or manufacturing plants. On the other hand, churches are categorized as non-essential insofar that their followers are not allowed to attend indoor worship services. So the other entities that they point out here, like Walmart, Target, Albertsons, Trader Joe's, Macy's, Nike, Gap, Gucci, I mean, if these are considered essential, then how could you not say that church is essential? And you even think about liquor stores being open during this time in California. And I guess the thinking on that is that some people are addicted to alcohol, and so not having that could actually be a threat to their well-being. Well, that's the same thing that could be said of church. It is very important for people's personal, mental, physical, and spiritual health to be in a church environment. And so that threatens their well-being if they are unable to attend church. I know a lot of people point out, and I do think in some cases it's okay to have online services, but that is not the same thing for many people as going to church and being with people they love and care about and worshiping God together physically. So if the state of California is going to say that these other places are essential, then it really doesn't make sense how they could say that churches are not essential. And again, that's on top of what I've already stated about the Constitution in California and in the national Constitution as well, along with what I said about President Trump and the executive branch declaring churches essential. So when you put all these three things together, that the Constitution says church is essential, the executive branch under President Trump says churches are essential, and even California government has kind of made the case here by allowing other entities to be considered essential because of people's well-being, well, churches are important to people's well-being, and therefore they are essential too. So when all is said and done, I don't know for sure that Grace Community Church will win in court. However, I think they have a really strong case here. And I think based on some of the things I've been talking about, it seems likely to me that the court could tell the California government they can't be as strict with churches as they have been. And so I think on some level, Grace Community Church will be able to meet indoors. I think that's the case. Now, that doesn't mean that the government won't be able to put any measures of precaution on the church and say, well, you have to do some social distancing. I'm not sure about that. But I think that Grace Community Church will be protected to meet indoors. That's what I think about the situation. I'd like to hear what you think in the comments below, but please try to keep your comments positive and edifying. But thank you so much for listening to what I have to say from A Frisch Perspective.